I know there have been many of you waiting for videos on the beastly JTR CAP2400. Well, today, let's talk first impressions and show that monster 18-inch driver in action. But something weird was going on when I first hooked these up, which made me question my decision to get these subwoofers, but we're going to cover that in a little bit. But after I got that sorted, it convinced me that this subwoofer is probably the sweet spot for anybody wanting JTR, so let's talk about it. I'm Barrett, this is Spec of Tech. Welcome to the channel. For those that are unaware, I ordered 3 monstrous JTR CAP2400 ported subwoofers, but I also ordered a pair of JTR Neosis 110 HT speakers, so make sure that you stay tuned for that review as well. But I want to apologize, guys, my out-of-town schedule has been really hectic, so I haven't been able to get these videos out as quickly as possible, so I appreciate your patience. Alright guys, so just for fun, let's have a look at that 18-inch driver in action, but check your volume because bass is incoming. Isn't that just a beautiful sight, guys? Those 18-inch JTR drivers, there just really isn't anything else like them. Alright, so if you've been looking for the sweet spot of cost to performance for a subwoofer, these subwoofers may just be perfect, but we'll get into all that a little bit later. First, let's cover what this badass bass bumper is made out of and what it costs. The technical model name for this JTR subwoofer is the Captivator 2400, but we'll just refer to it as the CAP2400 from here forward. The current price at the time of this recording is $3,499 US, which works out to about $4,700 Canadian. Now that might sound like quite a bit of money, but JTR delivers a lot for that price tag. The first way that they deliver is by building the enclosure out of void-free Baltic birch ply, which is more expensive than MDF, which is what most other subwoofers are made from. The cabinet is a ported design tuned to 10 Hz with the slot port located right at the bottom of the front side, and it measures 30 inches high, 20 inches wide, and 22.5 inches deep, and weighs in at a chunky 148 pounds. The standard finish is a matte black kind of texture paint, but JTR does offer custom finishes for an extra cost. The driver is a beastly 18-inch driver that has a monstrous 36mm X-Max, and all that means is that this driver moves front to back a staggering amount, as you saw in the quick demo earlier. To get the driver moving like that, you need power. The JTR CAP2400 has a 2400 watt RMS plate amp, hence the name, and on that amp you will find a toggle for turning the amp on, off, or leave it in auto position, which will turn the subwoofer on or off depending on if it's getting an LFE signal. You'll also find an XLR in and out for daisy chaining them, as well as a left and right RCA input, the left input being the LFE input. For adjustments, you have a knob for gain, LF adjust, crossover, and delay. For those wondering what the LF adjust does, it's somewhat of a room gain adjust for the lower frequencies. The more you turn up the boost, the more low end you get. The lower you turn it, the less you get. This will essentially help you adjust the room gain for different sized rooms. JTR lists the response as 12 Hz to 165 Hz plus or minus 3 dB, but in your room you should expect around 10 Hz or lower, and this subwoofer does deliver on that, at least in my room. The CAP2400 is made from quality materials and quality parts, and the amp is designed to push that driver to its limits. So when it comes to my first impressions on the build quality and design, I can't fault the JTR at all. It is built with one of the beefiest 18-inch drivers on the market, with over 1 pound of aluminum in the driver motor alone, and a reliable amp to push it. The cabinet is built like a tank, and you'll feel that as soon as you try lifting this beast into your house. The standard matte black finish is perfect for a home theater setup. Alright guys, that's all we're going to cover on the specs. If you want to know more, you can just click the link down in the description below. JTR lists more specs there, or you can always find more on Google by doing a simple search. Alright guys, so let's have a look at a couple more demos. For the demos, I was only using the front right CAP2400 with no room correction. Just remember that my room, my recording equipment, the device that you're listening on, and the fact that YouTube compresses the audio will greatly affect the sound. So don't take this as an accurate depiction of what it sounded like in my room. I hope you guys enjoyed those demos. I know that I do. I love watching this subwoofer do its thing, but it wasn't all rainbows and butterflies in the beginning. The first time I heard them, I hooked them up, then ran ARC on the AVM90, then put in the Edge of Tomorrow to listen to the opening scene. It's just one of those fun demos that I like to use when I get a new subwoofer. I was getting a lot of port noise though, and I wasn't really expecting it from these subwoofers. I didn't feel like I was pushing them to that level to where I should be hearing port noise, so I turned down the LF adjust a little and turned down the gain a little, and I was still getting a lot of port noise and a lot of air movement. And I'm sorry I didn't get this on camera before selling the AVM90, but I took some measurements, and sure enough, I was getting a huge peak from about 14 hertz down to about 8 hertz. But I didn't really get that hump without ARC or with a different processor. So I've concluded that since Anthem room correction will only correct down to 15 hertz, it was causing some funny behavior below 15 hertz. For those of you out there with an Anthem processor, just keep that in mind if you do get one of these subwoofers. I did try turning the LF adjust all the way down as well, which made the hump not quite as big, but it also affected some frequencies above 15 hertz, so that definitely wasn't the solution either. With that said, I'm no ARC expert, so maybe there's someone out there smarter than me that could let me know what was happening down in the comments below. But after I figured out what the problem was, I was very impressed with these subwoofers. I felt as though they had a slightly sharper punch to them than the JTR RS2s I had before them. I don't know why that is, and keep in mind that I'm basing this off of my memory, but I felt like they just kicked a little bit sharper. Maybe that has to do with the ported design being more efficient, I don't know, but I did feel like they had that sharper punch to them. That being said, I did also feel like they had a little less weight and meatiness to them versus the RS2s, which are a dual 18-inch driver but in a sealed cabinet. Not a big difference as far as the weight goes, but I did feel as though there was a slight difference in the weight department when it came to like the weighty, kind of beefy bass notes between those two subwoofers. But the JTR 2400 can sure hold its own. It has that weighted JTR bass that I love. It can violently shake my room, and after I figured out that huge peak that we had just talked about, it can do that without any port noise, unless of course you're pushing it to its limits. But the CAP 2400 has some high limits, so I don't know if there's many of you out there that are going to use it anywhere near its limits. So my first impression on the sound quality is that anyone looking for a good quality bass for their home theater would not be disappointed in the least. These subwoofers live up to the JTR name perfectly. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that I feel that these are the sweet spot for the JTR lineup. The reason that I believe that is because with the ported design, you get some absolutely killer output from a single 18-inch driver out of a cabinet that is quite large by some people's standards, but at the same time, it's quite small when it comes to the high output for a home theater or home audio setup. Most high output subwoofers are actually quite a bit larger than this, so I kind of find this to be the sweet spot in the size and the performance department. I feel like the size is more on the manageable side when keeping in mind the massive output and the ability of the CAP 2400. Make sure that you stay tuned for the full review, where I will show compression testing from my room and of course we'll go into more detail. To be notified of that video, make sure that you subscribe, click the bell icon if you do, and please take just one short second to hit that like button. I always do appreciate it. I would also really appreciate if you would consider supporting the channel so that I can keep bringing you information just like this. There is a link for my Patreon down in the description below, or you can click the join or the thanks button below this video to help the channel out. Remember to enjoy your systems. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.